Hello, this is Amarjot Singh, and I'm live in Edmonton, Alberta. And I'm here to talk about immigration files that clients make and the mistakes sometimes the lawyers or the authorized representative makes, making the file worse and, of course, resulting in refusal. So my purpose here is, of course, as you know, is to educate people so that you understand what the law is, you understand how the immigration system works, you understand what the eligibility is, so that you have control of your own immigration file. When we ignorantly ask the immigration lawyer or the consultant to take care of our files, and without knowing what he or she is doing, we actually are taking a big risk because we jeopardize our own immigration future, especially when the person has no best interest of our own file. And worse, sometimes they don't even know what they're trying to do. So I'm going to describe to you one of those cases today. I saw a case today. I'm going to protect the privacy of all individuals, so I'm not going to name all the lawyers and consultants and the client, but I'm just going to describe the flow of the immigration file, and then you will understand what was the mistake that was done, and then you'll know how to avoid this mistake and just be very careful. So we have a client who came from a foreign country to Canada on she applied for a study visa. So the study visa was blocked initially because I think she was looking for sponsorship from her relatives in Canada. The relatives, they actually, which I don't know whether they forgot the financial documents or there was something missing or there was some deficiency in the file. The relatives took the help of a member of parliament. This is about 14-15 years ago at that time in Canada. And with the help of the member of parliament, I do not know what they wrote, but the High Commission issued her a study visa and study permit. Not only this, they also issued her a temporary resident permit. Now, as a lay person, you may not know what is a temporary resident permit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type here a link so that you can see what I'm talking about and you can follow this. So a temporary resident permit is something that I actually just posted here. It's right here on the screen. So temporary resident permit is a permit where if you are inadmissible for a variety of reasons or any of those reasons, then the Canadian High Commission or the CBSA or Immigration Department will decide that you're going there or staying in Canada is warranted enough, and that they will give you a TRP. A TRP is not something that is unlimited. Not something that doesn't come with the conditions and is always limited by a certain duration. So you have to, stay in those conditions, and it does not even confer a temporary resident status because now you have to apply for a study permit. Of course, in this case, she already had a study permit, or if you want to work, you have to apply for a work permit. So the basic problem is the TRP. What was the reason? Why was the TRP? When we don't know, and I've asked the client to actually file for GCMS notes, or maybe somebody else can file the GCMS notes, and then they can find out what was the reason why she was inadmissible in the first place. Nonetheless, doesn't matter. She came here to Canada with the TRP and with the study permit, and now she's studying. After many years, after switching courses and diploma and degree, and what she took many years to complete these courses. And after that, what really happened was that she had applied for provincial nominee program with a local consultant here. I don't remember. I think she went to a local consultant first for PNP or maybe somebody else first. But I think most likely she went to the ICCRC consultant, RCIC, just like me. And they applied for a provincial nomination, in Alberta. They got the nomination, but her work permit was expiring or had already expired, and they needed to actually renew her work permit so that she can, have those A&P application continue so that it can be processed and the nomination could be issued. She had no work permit. Her work permit has already expired, so that consultant advised them to go to US to file for the work permit. The US refused the work permit, of course, both Los Angeles and New York, so that was gone. Then she came here, and I think she never even actually went to I'm not sure she already got the visa. Maybe she tried. I think the consultant tried sending the passport directly to them, and how how it was denied. It's a mystery to me, but it was denied, and she ran out of luck. She again also then filed for a refugee case. The refugee case was also denied because there was no merit in the refugee case. I mean, some lawyer, somebody said, some lawyer in Canada advised her to file a refugee case, not understanding what is the merit of the refugee, the evidence of the claim, and the refugee claim was also denied. Then she had married somebody in Canada. That marriage didn't last, and she was divorced after I think 3-4 months, but she had a child from that marriage. And then somebody said, okay, let's file for HNC, humanitarian and compassionate ground. Even that was denied from one lawyer and the second lawyer also did, I think, a judicial review, and then she went to a third lawyer, and then I think the third lawyer is also trying to maybe considering doing a HNC. I just wanted to clarify what were the mistakes in these applications and what went wrong and what she could have done to actually get a PR now. If she had a TRP for at least 5 years, starting from whenever she came here, there's a PR called getting a PR through permit holder class, and I'm going to just copy and link and show you what that is so that you can follow what I'm saying. I'm just going to type here on this so that you can see in this guide. So this guide will tell you, if you type this guide on Google, you will be able to see what what the permit holder class PR is. So if she had already spent 5 years on a TRP, and after 5 years, if there was no other inadmissibility, she could have applied for PR and she would have got the PR. But nobody knew at that time, or maybe she did not ask, or nobody else advised her, and then that chance was ruined. Second, the lawyer who advised her to file for refugee, that was a big mistake, because they didn't have any solid evidence for the refugee claim, because refugee claim is not like a frivolous claim. You got to have solid evidence of persecution in your home country. So that was, that should not have happened. I mean, of course, I don't know why they took all the money and they did the refugee claim. That should not have happened. I would have never done the refugee claim in that case. Third, somebody said, okay, now you have a child and you have no job, your work permit is expiring, your TRP is ongoing and continuing. Let us file a humanitarian compassion, without even understanding what is the basis of humanitarian compassion. I'm going to type a classic case. This was by Supreme Court, I think in 2015. It's a very famous case called Kanthaswamy versus Canada, and it raises the bar of the HNC consideration. I mean, HNC is not something that anybody can file, and anybody should be able to get the HNC quite immediately. So it's called Kanthaswamy versus Canada. I mean, if you type Kantha, let me just see if I can type here. Let's see if I can type here. Here, I'm going to type the Kanthaswamy. This is quite an important case, and I think if you go to Google and see this case, you will be able to see what is the standard of HNC consideration to be able to approve. And obviously there was not much of HNC consideration in this case, except she had a child who was born in Canada. She had no money, and that's it. I mean, the child has no medical problem or no hardship to that level where they consider the best interest of the child. So that was turned down. Amazingly, a second lawyer said, okay, look, I will file for it. They took the money. The third lawyer said, I will file it, and they also took the money. And in all, the client must have spent close to $25,000 plus over 14 to 15 years. And this is a grievous mistake. So what is the solution? My solution to the client is that they should, because she has had the work permit for some time, for a few years, I think for 4 or 5 years, where she had a temporary resident status when she was given a work permit. My suggestion is, because she already has a diploma from a Canadian institution, she already speaks English, She already has some authorized work experience as accountant in I think in NOC-B. She should be able to qualify separately, independently as an express entry. So she should, and she not only this, actually, she's now a refugee denied person, so she has to leave the country. But if she leaves the country, she can independently file thing like express entry, and then she can come back here. That's the only solution that she can do. She cannot do it from within Canada. She has to exit the country at least for a few months. My thing is that, you know, you should apply for express entry profile, see where your points are. Last time I checked, the points were touching about 470 or so. That's a good enough point. So she can make the profile now and leave the country, and then wait in that country. And when she gets the ITA, she fulfills all the documents. She has no crime, by the way, and then she comes back respectfully as a PR. So that I'm amazed. None of the lawyers, none of the consultants actually gave her this advice, and she had to come to me. So that's in a nutshell. You know, people make all kind of you know, mistakes, harmful mistakes, and the lawyers did not know what to do, and the lawyers made mistakes. So that's all I had to say about this case. You know, I don't mean to disrespect to any lawyer or any consultant, but I try to empower clients so that you have as much knowledge as possible, so that you can control what you're doing. You must read what the application is, what the criteria is, so that you can question the lawyer. Why is the lawyer doing a certain thing on an application? And always take receipts, always take retainer contract, what the lawyer is charging for, right? So that's what it is. I've got many questions. I think some people have joined here and they are asking questions. Let me see if I can answer some of them. Nabil Khan is visit visa transfer to TRP. Can reply, no, visit visa transfer to TRP is not a good idea. I don't know why you're asking. TRP, not TRP. I think you're probably asking about work permits. So TRP, visit visa transfer TRP doesn't happen. Saib Chuk is asking me, hello, sir, I have 58% withdrawals and I have below 15 accounts. Now, what are the chances of student visa? Saib Chuk, you're asking me an imaginative question. You know, what are the chances of student visa? Why don't you get the admission first and then call me, and then we can talk about the student visa chances, because study visa chances is something like, you know, it's not an exact answer to say that. Many people ask me, will I get the visa? Will I not get the visa? I mean, this is like an art. You know, you have to satisfy the visa officer that your bona fides are good and you're going for a study option. So it's not a simple question for me to answer in one line. All right. Who else is asking me questions? I guess that's what it is. I took a 2016 pass out. So in a nutshell, you know, I try to do this video so that I can inform many people as possible, whoever can log on to Facebook and, you know, see this video, and to understand that immigration law is something that you cannot take it you know, with a joke or with something non-seriousness. You need to understand what application you're trying to do. You need to understand what is written on the paper, what is the meaning of these lines, what is the meaning of those sections that they have printed on your study permit or visitor permits, and understand and go to a real lawyer who knows something, not like, you know, you go to you know, any lawyer with the biggest office in town, or somebody says, oh, I know this lawyer, and, you know, just because they are friends and they get some, you know, friendship commission or something, and then you hand over a large sum of money. Always go and ask them, you know, 3 questions I will always ask lawyer. What is your experience in doing these applications? So for example, HNC application, I would ask the lawyer, what is the experience of you doing the HNC applications? You know, can you give me some references? Number 2, tell me on what basis are you you know, using, what criteria and what reason are you using in this application, so that I will get approved. If you don't have any solid criteria, I think the lawyer is pretty much, you know, throwing dart in darkness. I mean, they don't know you know, what they're trying to do. Number 3, you need to ask them, you know, is there any other alternative than the application that you are suggesting? I mean, is there anything else that I can do beside what you're suggesting? So these 3 questions, I think, will eliminate bad lawyers or consultants in your application. Then, you know, you will win. Hopefully that will help some people. Who else is asking question? How can I contact you, Saib Chuk? My number is right here. I did write my website also. I did write. So here's my number on the screen. This number is in Canada, so you can call this number directly. This is a Canadian number. And that's the number I can be reached at any time between 9 and 5 Edmonton, Canada time. All right. Thank you very much for your patience.